Do you think this will affect your client's plans?
Hello everybody, welcome back to Screenstars. I'm here today to bring you my review for the 2021 horror film World Ends at Camp Z, a film that is directed by Ding Wang and it stars Anne Carolyn Burnett and Dean Persons. Now the film is set in Canada at like this campsite. It's a place you can go with like your RVs and tents, all this kind of stuff, go and camp up for the summer and what have you. Now this campsite's in financial difficulties and the lawyer for the person buying it turns up on site to go through the paperwork and all this kind of stuff. And she's then joined later on by the guy that is buying it, who happens to be her boyfriend. Now, all this is set as well at the backdrop of a global pandemic. There is, it's not COVID-19, there's like this global new strain of influenza that is causing chaos around the world. You can see where it's heading. It then develops into a zombie apocalypse, and it is up to these two people at this campsite and everybody else to kind of stay alive. Right, what are my thoughts on World Ends at Camp Z? Well, initially I was interested in checking this one out because to me it looked like it was going to be something of like a horror comedy. I mean, the title and the poster suggested to me it was taking like a lighter approach to the subject matter, which always kind of interests me. I mean, there's so many zombie films out there. It's a packed market, a packed genre. You know, I sometimes like to check out ones that potentially might do something a little bit different. But no, this is not a comedy at all. There's nothing humorous about it. Very little, certainly. And it certainly takes itself quite seriously. So that was a little bit of a disappointment for me. Now, this is a low-budget film. I don't know how much of budget they had to play with here, but I suspect it was certainly less than $1 million. I suppose for a low-budget film like this, it does what it can with the budget that it's got. And what I mean by that is the film looks fairly polished. It's got some decent production values to it. There's good sound design, all this kind of stuff. The location's interesting, and the premise is certainly interesting. And some decent shots and also decent direction going on, all that kind of stuff. Performance-wise, certainly the two central performances by Anne Carolyn Burnett and Dean Persons are fine. For me, they feel the most established actors. They deliver believable performances, and they're arguably the most relatable characters too. Everybody else in the film is a little bit dodgy. It varies in quality in regards to performances, but I've certainly seen worse, put it that way, although it all depends on your tolerance levels for low-budget movies, I suppose. So just be warned when you go in, some of the performances aren't just up to scratch with some of the actors. A thing that I struggled with this film as well was nothing happens for a long, long time in this film. Nothing. It's almost an hour until you actually see your first zombie. I think it's about 55 minutes, something like that. So I understand probably why it took that long. I'm sure it was budgetary reasons, was partially something to do with it. But if you're spending almost an hour with these characters, the idea you would hope would be to flesh them out and allow us to build a relationship with them and get a connection to these characters so that when things start happening later in the film, you're invested in these characters. But in actual fact, no. We spend almost an hour with these characters. Some of them you can't stand. And the other two, we still don't learn an awful lot about them. Certainly the two or three characters in this film who I were in any way invested in, again, you spend an hour with them before and it's not fleshed out at all. And plus, it doesn't do anything interesting with some plot devices in that hour leading up to the zombies. There's a plot point where the guy that's buying the campsite is actually buying it for nefarious reasons. He wants to kind of mine minerals and all this kind of stuff, and it's sacred land. So you've got that kind of thing going on. There's a campfire story about, I think it's a Vendigo that this guy who previously owned the site is telling them all about. And then there's also another plot device where one of them is kind of abducted and then tied up and put a mask on, almost like a zombified mask, and let loose on them. And we learn nothing about that. Okay, who did that? What was that all about? So they kind of spend an hour building these characters and these pointless plot devices that go absolutely nowhere. The film just didn't need them. Shave 15 minutes off your runtime and make the film pop a bit faster. These plot devices just weren't required at all. And then the last half an hour of the film, zombie apocalypse thing, usual sort of stuff. The effects are vary, I suppose. They're nothing special. It's mainly like blood from eyes, and that kind of stuff. Those are the kind of zombies that we get here in this film. Nothing particularly special. You don't see anything really particularly gory going on here. And it's from that point on, it's kind of predictable. You can kind of tick off the characters that you think are expendable and who aren't. And the final two who are left, sort of thing, won't surprise anybody. So yeah, it's for a low budget zombie film, it does a decent enough job of doing what it says on the tin. I just think it could have delivered more. I think there was potential here for a better film, I think, and unfortunately, like I say, it goes on way too long before you see anything happens in regards to the zombies, and then once you get the zombies, that's not particularly interesting either. So I'm going to have to give this one a 4 out of 10, which is a bit of a shame. I do think there was potential here with this one, but unfortunately, for the most part, I think it failed to deliver. So thanks for watching, everybody. I hope you enjoyed this review. I will be back with more content on the channel very, very soon.